A couple of weeks ago, I reviewed a game called Rigid Force Redux, which was a fairly standard side-scrolling shoot-'em-up that was clearly inspired by Irem's long-running R-Type franchise. What stood out about that game wasn't all the stuff the developer obviously ripped off, but rather how mind-numbingly boring the story and cinemas were. It didn't need to be that way, and to show you that, I want to use the first-generation PlayStation game Philosoma to prove a point. While this 25-year-old shooter may not have reinvented the genre, what it did well was that it demonstrated how a so-so game can be improved by just adding a few awesome cinemas and an explosive finale. Oh, turn back now if you don't want to know what happens next, because today we're gonna spoil the story and ending for Philosoma on the PlayStation. This is Game Over, the early years. As far as I'm concerned, Philosoma is a solid shoot-'em-up. It's not my favorite 32-bit action game, but I've definitely played a lot worse. Critics were largely torn at the time, with Next Generation, GamePro, and others complaining that the genre hadn't evolved enough in the 32-bit world. While on the other side, Electronic Gaming Monthly liked it enough to award it the best shooter of 1995. But the one thing that ultimately united all of these critics is their appreciation for the game's incredible cinemas. That's what we're going to focus on today, starting with this lengthy introduction that explains everything that you need to know about the world of Philosoma.
A sudden mission. That was Planet 220's search and rescue project. I have fought many battles and lost many of my men, but that was not all. The horror I saw was only a prelude to what was to happen later. I am Captain Nicola Michaud, the leader of UNF SCV Gallant, BFA 29.
Somebody respond, please. This is Planet 220. Can anyone hear me?
This is UNF Gallant. 220, report the situation.
I'm calling in for help. Please come.
Colonel Kinabalu, the transmission has gone dead.
Lieutenant Commander, proceed to 220 at once. Full speed.
Yes, sir.
Lieutenant Commander Cox, red alert.
Yes, sir. Striker, prepare for launch sequence. Launch all remaining. Cox to Charlie Flight. Initiate launch sequence.
Roger, this is Charlie Leader, initiating launch sequence.
Delta Flight. Initiate launch sequence.
Roger, this is Delta Leader. Launch sequence initiated.
Charlie Leader Michaud to Delta Leader.
This is Delta Leader Lang.
According to the orders, I will be in command of both Charlie and Delta.
Roger. Renix, D3. Delta Flight is now under the command of Charlie Leader Michaud.
Roger.
Roger. Cox to Charlie and Delta Flight. Checking Alice.
Charlie Flight, Alice 1, 2, 3, normal. Delta Flight, Alice 1, 2, 3, normal.
All fighters, hold for further orders.
Roger. Lang to D3. How do you feel?
Fine, sir.
This is D3's first mission, Commander Renix. Take care of him.
Roger. D3, remember your training.
Yes, Commander Renix. Charlie and Delta, initiate final launch sequence.
Activate engine.
Roger.
Catapult intention. Launch aircraft.
Burner on. Maximum power.
Ready, go.
Gallant to Charlie Leader. Alpha and Bravo are currently engaged in combat. Attacking aircraft are friendly.
Friendlies?
Why would our own fighters attack us?
Defense mechanism breakdown. Evade combat and enter from the ravine.
Roger that. Alice, change course.
Descending mode. Program start. SIF mode selected 3. Stand by for stratosphere entry. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Mark. Electric potential rising. Surface temperature rising. Cooling system normal.
All pilots, deep dive through the ravine. We're heading toward the city. Alice, display map.
Flash. Dead ahead. Magnetic field detected. Caution. Magnetic reaction up.
The rock float is due to the magnetic field.
Charlie leader to all units. Engage in combat.
This is Delta Leader. Renix, back me up. D3, fly low.
Okay, so maybe that wasn't as informative as I was hoping. In case you somehow missed it, between all those Rogers, you play a rookie pilot named D3, who teams up with Renix to run a rescue mission when Alpha and Bravo teams send a strange and troubling emergency alert. It kinda sounds like our friends and allies have turned against us, but that doesn't make any sense. Either way, Charlie and Delta teams are sent down to the ravine to investigate and hopefully save Alpha and Bravo. Unfortunately, things do not go as planned.
All units, proceed to join Charlie.
Gallant to all units. Spaceport invaded by enemy.
Enemy? What happened to Bravo?
Destroyed.
Bravo's destroyed? What happened to Turner?
He's gone.
I can't believe it.
Go around the port. Take the access route.
Roger. Display map. All units, set course to access route. We're going around spaceport.
Roger.
This is Lang. All remaining units join Charlie. Misha, what happened to the others?
They're gone.
What? Klaus and Kurt.
It's my fault.
Gallant to all flights. Received call from survivor.
Colonel, the origin.
The mineral collecting tower. Transmitting coordinates.
Roger.
Caution. I-fork armed and in range.
My God, look at them!
Don't panic. Let's cut through them. Follow me.
Oh, now I see what they meant by friendlies. It sort of seems that the unknown enemy is somehow able to take control over our ships and weapons that were meant to be on our side. The teams try their hardest to push back, but the evil forces are too much for the remaining fighters to deal with. D3 and Charlie Squadron Commander Michelle narrowly escape with their lives, forcing the remaining good guys to come up with a different plan. It's at the team's lowest moment when they finally catch a break. The survivors have been found and they're hidden deep inside of a mine. Unfortunately, Michelle's confidence has been shaken by the strategic losses. But D3 and the rest of Charlie rally around and regroup inside what seems like an obvious death trap. Hey, remember like a second ago when I mentioned that the mine looks like an obvious death trap? Well, that's because it is. To make matters worse, D3 gets separated from Renix, who runs into an alien enemy and dies off screen. At the same time, D3 has his own alien enemy problem to deal with, forcing him to fly through this tight corridor in hopes of reuniting with Misha and Gallant. Now, just in case you're curious, here's how that reunion goes.
D3, are you alright?
Yes, sir.
Misha to Gallant. We're at level 2 at the horizontally drilled hole.
This is Gallant. Survivors are underground.
Roger, we're going in.
Good luck.
Numerous living organisms detected.
Another mutant?
Insufficient data. Access. Hack. Scan. Access. Hack.
Get him!
What is that?
Scan. Access.
Everyone, get out! Sir!
Lang!
This must be Genom!
Lang, get out! Quick!
I can't! The escape mode is... No!
Uncontrolled. Life sign terminated.
Oh, God!
And then there were two. It seems the deeper D3 and Mashah go, the more dangerous the mine becomes. The good news is that the ship's computer is picking up a distress signal, suggesting that the survivors are just waiting for us to save the day. The bad news is that there's a giant alien sea serpent thing standing between us and the survivors. We shoot it down, but I'm afraid the next cinema has some even worse news for our heroes.
Survivors detected. Survivors detected. Survivors detected. Survivors detected.
Captain!
Survivors detected.
Alice! This monster has taken control! D3, we're leaving!
Roger. This is D3! Captain, please respond!
Engage autopilot.
What? Alice, switch to manual!
Autopilot. Current location. Center of planet. Detected. Monella. Monella. A living organism. 3 miles in height. Strega investigating. Pilot Mishal. Start tracking. Attack.
That's right. Mashah gets gobbled up by the alien, and the ship's computer decides to just start attacking. Oh man, what's going on? Not wanting to come back alone, D3 fires at the enemy's core in order to save his commander. This is for all the brave men and women who died in a battle that they didn't even know they were fighting. D3 uses his ship to blow up the core, and this is what happens next.
Philosoma. Fertilization complete.
Thanks, D3. We're out of here. Break! Now! Target locked. Fire! Burner on. Maximum power.
What in the hell?
Are you all right, Captain?
Yes, but 0 survivors. All units destroyed except D3 and myself. Rescue mission failed.
Mission accomplished.
What?
Final report. Philosoma. Fertilization completed. Mission accomplished. Multiplication and behavior of humans essential for increased fertilization. Entering the next stage. Over and out.
This is all the information recorded on my mission disk. An eternal symbol of hatred and fear. Philosoma. I dedicate this record to all the living organisms destroyed by him, wishing the deepest condolences from the bottom of my heart. Codename D3. I am a fighter pilot for UNF Gallant.
Ooh, I have to give this game credit. Philosoma is definitely one of the darkest shoot-'em-ups I've ever played. It's almost like a horror film, complete with individual pilots getting picked off one at a time, and a whole terrible twist at the very end. I mean, we barely make it out with 2 people, and even that small victory is undercut by 2 endings that stomp all over the notion of a happy ending. And that's why this fairly generic shoot-'em-up has stuck with me for all these years. They added just enough of the story to keep you thinking, and even managed to set up a pretty intriguing sequel. Oh, that reminds me, did you know that Sony actually published a sequel to Philosoma? It's not a shooter or anything, but rather a sci-fi survival horror game called Phase Paradox that was only released in Japan on the PlayStation 2. It tells the story of what happens after Gallant is heavily damaged by the explosion on planet 220. It's an effective horror game with a crazy ending, but there's no time to talk about that right now. We'll get to that in the future. For now, pour one out for Alpha, Bravo, Delta, and sadly, most of Charlie. Ugh, rest in peace, Renix. Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Game Over, the early years. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new episodes every Monday. Oh, and we also have an archive full of more than 100 episodes. That's a lot. Now, here's the question I have for you. What is your favorite PlayStation 1 action game? Oof, there's so many to choose from, so I can't wait to see what you come up with in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back later this week with reviews of both Cruel Band's career and Metamorphosis, as well as my take on Skater XL. If that sounds good to you, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.